government to sparing more than 20 million Americans from paying the alternative minimum tax this year. Are the two sides any closer to compromise? For the answer, we turn to two members of the House leadership responsible for keeping track of votes and twisting a few arms. House Majority Whip James Clyburn, House Minority Whip Roy Blunt. Thanks to both of you for joining us here on Money in Politics. Congressman Clyburn, if I could begin with you, let's start with the spending fight. Have you and other Democrats now conceded you're going to have to agree to the president's spending limit of about $933 billion? That sounds like what we heard today from Speaker Pelosi.
Yeah, I think so. There's going to be a little difference in the priorities, though. The president has given us what his limit is. We are going to give him a bill in this omnibus that will meet that limit. However, we are going to reprioritize things as we think they ought be. But the spending limit, here again.
And Congressman Blunt, your take on this, does that mean we've reached an end game here for the spending fight, an omnibus bill that's within the president's budget limit but maybe not his priorities? Is this something Republicans are going to be able to support?
Well, Peter, I think it depends on how much beyond those priorities, what we change. Certainly, getting to the president's spending limit is a good thing. I think the president's spending limit was plenty generous for growth in the federal government. It's about 4.5% growth in these 11 of the 12 bills that haven't yet been funded, and so that's an important and major step toward getting to a bill that the president could sign and Republicans could vote for. But priorities will matter. Adding things, trying to add things to the appropriations bill that couldn't get done in the other lawmaking process could still be a big problem. And trying to say that things are emergency spending that aren't really emergencies, but if we'll work together, we can get this done. And certainly, I hope that the majority will now reach out to the minority and to the White House and say, let's come back next week with a bill that we've already all decided we can vote for, rather than come back next week and be headed toward an absolute legislative impasse that forces us into some other decision about next year's funding.
And what happens, Congressman Blunt, is it your expectation that that's going to be that's going to have Iraq funding as well attached to it, this omnibus? Would that be something Republicans again would be supportive of?
You know, Republicans would be supportive of that, but my view is that the view that the majority's had, that they're not going to fund Iraq, or they're going to fund it with strings on the commanders in the field and restrictions, is unsustainable. If they go home without funding these troops in the field, Democrats in the districts that we're going to be expecting to win back next year are going to have the worst January they've ever had. And so they get to make that choice. Fund the troops now, or believe me, fund the troops the minute you get back in late January is what's going to happen here. So I don't see that as a negotiable item. If I was the Democrats, I'd want to get that issue off the table, and they need to decide how they're going to treat these fighting men and women who are out there on the front lines right now.
Congressman Clyburn, how are you going to handle that issue?
Well, we're going to handle it the way the American people would like to see it handled. I don't know where this issue came from that we do not want to support the troops. We do support the troops. Some of them are my family members, I want you to know. The fact of the matter is, if we didn't give them another dime, the CRS has told us we can go through March. We are going to fund these troops with $50 to $70 billion. We'll do what is necessary to get the job done. But that's got nothing to do with the fact that we've got to educate children. We've got to provide health care for children. We've got to do something about our energy policies. We've got to do something about making affordable education for our children and grandchildren. All these things have got to be done. We cannot have all the attention on Iraq or Iran or Afghanistan. We have to take care of the children, the grandchildren, the spouses, the parents of these men and women who are off fighting this unpopular war. They left back behind here a lot of family members that they want us to take care of. So this whole notion that we ought not be thinking about them is a little bit wrong-headed to me.
Congressman Clyburn, how would you respond to those watching out in the country who don't watch the day-to-day process of Congress all that closely, but all they see is that you and Mr. Blunt and Democrats and Republicans up on the Hill can't seem to reach agreement on any major piece of legislation? How would you respond to that? What's going on?
Well, I would ask them to take a look at what we've done. We have passed every single appropriations bill out of the House. We've done our 6-for-06 just as we promised it to do. We passed the biggest increase in veterans benefits in the history of the 77-year old Veterans Administration. We have made it. We get the biggest investment in higher education that's been made since the GI Bill. We've done all of that out of the House. So I would ask the American people to take a look at what we have done and not pay a whole lot of attention to these sound bites that people tend to put forward.
Congressman Blunt, if Americans take a look at that record, are they going to blame you and the White House for not getting anything done?
You know, I really don't think they can do that, Peter. First of all, these bills did pass the House. I think they passed them with too much of an overreach, something that didn't put pressure on the Senate. Certainly you can't blame the president because bills just simply did not get to his desk. I think one of the things that our friends in the majority hopefully have learned in this first year in the majority is you've got to have an eye on not just how you get things out of the House, but how you get things done. And in this important area of funding, the things that the federal government needs to be doing, you've got to remember we spent the first 100 days of this Congress voting 40 times on setting deadlines on Iraq and troops in the field. The role of the members of Congress is not to replace the generals in the field. It's to support the troops, make the right decisions at the right time. And I think what we're going to find out is we just simply run out of time here, and that's the fault of the majority not getting the work done in a way that it need to be done. Democrats control the Senate. Democrats control the House. The president hasn't had bills on his desk to even think about vetoing at an alarmingly low rate.
Congressman Blunt, he vetoed S-CHIP again today,
right,
this state children's health insurance program. Is the president the problem here? Is he the obstruction?
Well, the president's vetoed, I think, 3 bills in the entire Congress. As of November 1, we'd sent him 107 bills, 47 of them named public buildings, 44 of them everybody voted for. So you're really only talking about a dozen or so bills that did anything at all. The president's not the problem here. The problem is the Congress didn't get the work done and get it to the president. We voted over 1,000 times in the House and produced less final legislation in this Congress than any year in the history of the government.
Congressman Clyburn, really quickly, you get the last word.
Well, thank you so much. The fact of the matter is, this is the second time the president has vetoed this bill. We gave him the number he wanted, $35 billion. That's what the House did. That's what the Senate did. So it's the president that's standing in the door of doctors' offices and hospitals all over this country, preventing health care for 10 million American children. Okay. And I think the American people understand that.
Congressman Clyburn, Congressman Blunt, we thank both of you for joining us. Busy time up on the Hill. Thanks again.
Thank you.
We're back here on Money and Politics after a short break.